Soft skills can be learnt from books, during conversations, and in teams. We all need them, so how can you develop them? Let's explore. It's Sunday afternoon, and I would like to invite you to spend a little bit of time with me. Reflection is how we develop our self-awareness. And this week I put out a LinkedIn article that you can read where I share some thoughts about the rubric. But what I wanted to do now is to spend a little bit of time with you, if you're willing, and just have a coffee. I love a espresso, and I want to use this moment with you as a chance to actually reflect. So if you want to push pause on the video, you're very welcome. Come back with that cup of tea or that coffee and a blank piece of paper. And I also want you to think about how has your week been? We're going to look back in order to look forward in this episode. So what I've been doing as a personal practice for a little while now is to think about how I can reflect on my week and reflecting on the values that I have, which are service, learning, integrity, and communication. And how have I been able to enact those particular values? I'm also this year, rather than writing a daily journal, which I used to do a lot, this year I have a much smaller notebook that you can't quite see here because it's green with the background here. But this little notebook is where I write in a daily quote or some moment of inspiration that I've had in my week. And so I wanted to spend this time with you to look back in order to look forward, both at the quotes and things that I've written down, where have I focused my attention, but also to reflect on my values. And I'd like you to do the same. I'd like to encourage you to do the same with me. One of the learning philosophies at 6 Seconds is that wisdom lives within. And what this means is that we often have our own answers. And I can't be here to advise you of your situations or decisions that you need to make, but I want to encourage you to really think about where has this week gone and how have you been able to connect this to your values, to who you are, to the things that intrinsically motivate you. So for me, service has been about, today I was at church, I'm the moderator of my church, and it was a tremendous service. And we had a guest pastor, I sang. So if you'd like to see my singing, let me know. But I didn't do it for myself. I did it to serve my community, and putting together the things I do as part of being a lay leader enables me to recognize that this is the way in which I serve this small community. And many people appreciate that service, and it makes me feel good to know that I'm giving them something. Learning. So this week I recognized in my journal that I have been thinking a little bit more about pedagogy, which I mentioned in a previous video, but also I am completing and have completed my second level of EQ educator. And I also grabbed a copy of this book by Lorea Martinez Perez this week. So it's all about social and emotional learning in classrooms for teachers. And while I'm not a teacher of school-age children, I am an educator for higher education. And I think that the values that are talked about in this book, as I've just started, are contributing to that. So although I'm, quite skilled as an EQ professional in the methods of 6 Seconds, for instance, there's always room to develop more, to learn, to grow. And so I'm excited after this to sit down for an hour on this Sunday afternoon and to read a bit more about the words of Lorea Perez and how I can grow as an educator. Integrity is all about leading the path that you actually want to, with that sense of truthfulness in that. So this week in my interactions with people, I try to make sure that I'm clear. I've tried to make sure that I am succinct and that I am seeing people on an equal level here as well. And communication, I've had a couple of moments where I've needed to be either clearer or I've realized that what is said is not what is heard. It's happened twice. And so therefore you have to ask yourself, okay, is this me? and how I'm communicating? Is it the other person? Is there something I can change in the way I'm communicating as well? So these are my 4 values that create Slick. And recognizing this wisdom that lives within, I'm recognizing this week, and maybe you're having similar thoughts about your own week, but we can have and should consider multiple viewpoints. Very often we are reminded that our way is not always the way. And so there are, again, another learning philosophy: no way is the way. So, which way can you work best with others? Which way can you recognize that you don't have all the answers? And this week, catastrophically, it has been across the world an interesting week. And we're not at the end of that with the conflicts that are arising in and around the Middle East. And so this is a strange time, an unprecedented one. So we have to consider multiple viewpoints, the different peoples of the world. What are their needs? How do they need to exist? The other thing I'm learning here, and I recognize from my notes and my quotes, is that we have to go within in order to understand ourselves, that we can become our own teacher. And experience is a wonderful teacher, but we need to grow, to understand, to learn, to also reflect. And so we have those answers. This has already gone on for a little while now, so I don't know where this is leading you in your reflection if you're watching, but taking this moment just to sit with a blank piece of paper and then to jot down some thoughts, some feelings, and some actions might be something that you could install as a habit for this week to help you recognize your emotions and the emotional connections or disconnections that you've had in your week, to see how you're bringing your strengths forward, and perhaps not so much focus on your vulnerabilities and weaknesses, but where have you added value to others, and how does that affect you intrinsically? Where have you been able to bring your intrinsic motivation in the week? So learning something new, or doing something that helps others, for instance, or whatever your internal drives are. Where have you been able to think about or live your values? What's helped you to get out of bed and say, right, today I get to do this. And already next week, I know what I'm looking forward to and where I get to do this as well. And perhaps how have you understood how others are perceiving you? So that comes through the feedback that people give you. It might come through the comments. And again, it may come through the challenges and the problems that you face as well. So pause. You might pause for 6 seconds, for 60 seconds, or for 60 minutes. All it might take is a double espresso just to allow you to go within. And an exercise I really like to do sometimes is just to pause. Let's do it now. Just stop. What are you sensing in yourself? What do you need to write down? I'm going to continue this on in this moment. So I hope that you will be able to add this type of practice to your life. See where it could make a difference for you. And maybe you can create a mini version that you take into your week. Just a blank piece of paper, just a notebook and a pen, something that will allow you to be still. Be still and know more about who you are, what you value, and where you can bring your talents and gifts to the world.